neglected starship finds new life. Human mechanic turns it into a galactic weapon. Evan Calder wiped the grease off his hands and looked at the ship in front of him. It was a hulking old starship, sitting in the salvage yard like a forgotten relic. The hull was scratched, dented and pitted by years of space dust and neglect. Its paint had faded into dull gray, and most of the crew areas were covered in dust and grime. To any alien mechanic, this ship was worthless. But Evan saw something else, a spark of potential. "Are you serious?" hissed a Loxian engineer beside him, his three eyes narrowing. "They want us to strip this piece of junk for parts?" Even a human could do better by throwing it into a crusher. Evan shrugged. Humans could be underestimated, but that didn't mean they were weak. He had spent his life learning to fix what others considered broken. This starship, he knew, was not beyond saving. It was begging for a second chance. He stepped inside the ship's main airlock. The smell of old metal and burnt wiring hit him. Sparks flickered in the control panels, and the AI core's lights were dim, blinking slowly, like it was barely alive. Most of the alien contractors had already moved on to newer ships, leaving this one to rot. Evan ran his fingers over the console. "You're not dead," he muttered softly. "You just need someone who cares." The ship's AI core responded with a faint pulse, almost as if it understood him. The rest of the crew areas were quiet, but Evan could hear the hum of the old engine cores, begging to be awakened. He spent hours examining the ship. Its engines were old, yes, but built to last. Its weapon systems were outdated, but durable. The modular design meant it could accept upgrades in ways newer ships could not. Even the hull plating was thick enough to withstand small-scale attacks. He could see the skeleton of a vessel that had once been Sprout, now abandoned, but not broken beyond repair. The Loxians were impatient. "Why are you wasting your time, human? Scrapping it is all you need to do." Evan ignored them. They didn't understand human ingenuity. Humans thrived on impossible odds. They survived because they adapted. And this ship, it was going to survive too. By the next morning, Evan had started his secret work. He didn't have many tools, just a basic human toolkit, some scavenged parts, and his own wits. But he worked tirelessly. First, he repaired the life support systems. Air filters, circulation pumps, and the emergency oxygen tanks all came back to life under his careful hands. Then he focused on the engines. The engine room was a mess. Wires hung loose, control rods were bent, and several fuel conduits had corroded beyond recognition. Other mechanics would have replaced them all with new parts, but Evan had a different idea. He studied the schematics, learned how the engines were originally built, and found ways to patch the damaged conduits with makeshift reinforcements. When he finished, he had created a system that could run stronger than before, even with the old cores. It was exhausting work, and for a moment Evan wondered if he was foolish. This was a ship no one wanted, floating in a remote salvage yard at the edge of civilized space. What good would it do, repaired? But then he remembered his childhood stories of humans surviving against impossible odds, and he smiled. By the third day, Evan had managed to revive the ship's AI core. It was weak, but it responded to basic commands. The AI introduced itself in a faint, flickering voice. Designation, Odyssey. Core integrity, 34%. Systems functional, partial. Evan grinned. Partial is better than nothing. Let's get you to 100%. Over the next week, he worked in secret, often sneaking in at night to avoid detection. He scavenged small pieces of alien tech that others had discarded, integrating them into the human ship's systems. He reinforced the hull, upgraded power conduits, and installed emergency redundancies. Every step was small, but together they transformed the ship from a rusting husk into a vessel that was beginning to hum with life again. The other mechanics whispered about him, calling him crazy. "The human thinks he can rebuild a dead ship," they said. "It will never fly." But Evan ignored them. He had learned long ago that humans did not need permission to succeed. Finally, after hours of fine-tuning, Evan climbed into the cockpit. He checked the engine readouts. the fuel flow, the shield integrity, and then pressed the ignition. The engines roared to life, low and rumbling at first, then rising to a steady, powerful hum. The lights on the control panels flickered and steadied. The Odyssey had awakened. Evan's heart raced. "Welcome back," he whispered. The ship vibrated beneath him as if it were responding, alive and aware. For the first time, the old Starship wasn't abandoned. It had a purpose again. But awakening the ship was only the beginning. Evan knew that there were dangers in the galaxy, from pirates to alien navies. A vessel like this, alone and weak in reputation, could easily be destroyed if it drew attention. That didn't matter to Evan. Humans thrived where others feared to go, and he was ready to test the ship's limits. He spent the next days running simulations, pushing the engines harder than manuals allowed, testing the shields against damage, and experimenting with the weapon systems. The aliens had long dismissed the weapons as useless. They were old projectile cannons and plasma turrets, but Evan found ways to modify them. By rerouting power and adjusting targeting arrays, he made the weapons faster, deadlier, and more unpredictable than anything modern aliens were used to. It was messy, unorthodox, and almost certainly illegal, but it worked. Late one night, Evan climbed to the observation deck and stared out at the stars. Beyond the salvage ring, the galaxy was vast, full of unknown threats and opportunities. He thought about the abandoned ships, the destroyed planets, and the alien fleets. And he thought about humans, small in size, often underestimated, but always resilient, always adapting. "This ship," he said quietly, "will show them what humans can do." Sensors picked up an unknown vessel approaching the salvage yard. It was small, a pirate raider, likely here to loot what remained. Most would have fled, but Evan's grin widened. He climbed into the pilot's seat, his fingers flying over the controls. The Odyssey responded instantly, engines surging as if it had been waiting for this moment. The pirate raider fired first, but its shots bounced harmlessly off the reinforced hull. Evan countered with the human-modified weapons, striking with precision and unpredictability. The pirate's hull screamed under the attack, and within moments it was drifting in space, disabled. Evan exhaled, adrenaline pumping. The other mechanics stared from the salvage yard, mouths open. He had done the impossible. "This," Evan muttered, "is just the beginning." The Odyssey hummed beneath him, alive, powerful, and ready. The ship no one wanted had found new life. A human mechanic had turned a relic into a weapon that could challenge the galaxy itself. And far away, alien powers would soon take notice. The galaxy was not kind to the weak or the forgotten. Evan Calder knew this better than most. After his first encounter with the pirate raider, word had already begun to spread. The salvage yard's whispers turned into murmurs among nearby stations. Some human had revived an old ship, and that ship had destroyed a pirate vessel all on its own. Evan didn't care about the rumors. He had work to do. The Odyssey had survived its first test, but surviving against a small raider was nothing. If humans wanted to matter in the galaxy, they had to be smarter, faster, and more unpredictable than anyone expected. In the workshop, he bent over the engine console, adjusting power flows and rewiring circuits with meticulous care. The alien engineers had laughed when he started adding old human logic systems back into the ship's controls. "Primitive and inefficient," one of them said. "You will never match a modern nav computer." Evan only smiled. Humans did not need elegance. They needed reliability, adaptability, and creativity. While alien ships depended on rigid automation, humans could improvise. One human mind could outthink 1,000 automated systems. One human hand could fix what a machine could not. And Evan was about to prove it. He began retrofitting the weapon systems. The Odyssey's old projectile cannons had been considered obsolete. Plasma turrets were slow, energy-hungry, and inaccurate by alien standards. Evan ignored those criticisms. He rerouted power through emergency conduits, altered firing sequences, and added makeshift targeting gyroscopes scavenged from old sensors. The results were immediate. The weapons were not elegant. They sputtered, hummed, and occasionally misfired. But when they hit hard. The unpredictability of the human modifications meant that no enemy targeting algorithm could anticipate them. What the aliens called inefficient became terrifyingly effective. As he worked, the AI core began to respond differently. Calculating optimal power distribution, it said, its voice stronger than before, suggesting tactical maneuvers based on pilot behavior patterns.
Evan grinned. The ship was learning, not just from its systems, but from him.
Humans did not follow patterns. They adapted. The Odyssey was beginning to understand human unpredictability, and it was becoming faster, smarter, and deadlier because of it. The first real test came sooner than he expected. A message flashed across the cockpit screen. A small convoy of trade ships was under attack by pirates near the Outer Rim. Normally, humans were ignored in these regions. Alien navies assumed human vessels were too weak to intervene. But Evan did not hesitate. He pushed the engines to full power, feeling the vibrations of the Odyssey through his hands. The ship roared like a beast waking from a long sleep. Its hull shivered under the strain of accelerated flight, but Evan had reinforced every panel. This ship could take punishment, and it would strike back harder. As he entered the sector, he saw the pirates in formation. They were larger than the one he had destroyed before, faster and more heavily armed. Alien observers would have considered this mission suicidal. Most humans would have run. But Evan knew something they did not. Fear alone could not stop a human with a plan. The pirates opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked past the Odyssey, cutting through the vacuum of space with deadly precision. Evan laughed, a sharp, exhilarated sound. He weaved the ship through the barrage, dodging instinctively. Automated targeting systems tried to follow, but the movement was too erratic for their rigid logic. Then he struck. The modified cannons fired in a sequence no standard targeting algorithm could predict. One pirate ship erupted in a ball of flame. Another was disabled when a plasma shot severed its engines. The remaining raiders tried to regroup, but Evan's ship was already among them, unpredictable, fast, and relentless. The convoy of trade ships watched in disbelief as the human vessel dismantled the pirate attack. No one had expected a single human ship to have such an impact. But the truth was simple. Humans did not fight like aliens. They fought like humans, smart, adaptable, and fearless. After the skirmish, Evan guided the Odyssey back to the salvage yard. He had tested the ship's capabilities in real combat, and it had survived. It had not only survived, but had proved that even a neglected vessel could dominate when guided by human ingenuity. However, the victory brought new challenges. The alien authorities began to take notice. Patrol ships appeared in the sector, scanning for the rogue human vessel. Their reports described a ghost ship that could not be captured, a human-engineered anomaly that threatened control over the Outer Rim. Evan knew it was only a matter of time before the galaxy's larger powers would attempt to stop him, but he did not fear them. Humans had always been underestimated, and underestimation was a weapon. While the galaxy relied on rules, Evan relied on creativity. While they trusted automation, he trusted human instinct. He spent the following days upgrading the ship even further. He integrated old human engineering principles with scavenged alien tech, creating hybrid systems that could operate in ways no alien designer had imagined. Shields that should have been slow became adaptive. Engines that should have overheated ran longer and stronger. Weapons that should have jammed fired with unexpected precision. The Odyssey was no longer just a ship. It was a reflection of human resilience and inventiveness. Every dent, every scratch, every outdated panel was a testament to survival. The ship's AI now referred to Evan's decisions not as commands, but as suggestions, learning to anticipate his tactics. One night, Evan took the ship on a secret flight beyond the salvage yard's perimeter. Stars stretched endlessly before him. For the first time, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. This ship, once neglected and worthless, was now alive. It could fight, evade, and endure, and it would carry humans into places no one expected them to survive. Yet he also knew the dangers were growing. Alien warships would eventually come, not curious or cautious, but hostile. They would attempt to seize or destroy the Odyssey. And when that day came, Evan would be ready, not with raw strength, but with human ingenuity, cunning, and creativity. He tested the weapons one last time that night, firing at a derelict satellite in orbit. The Odyssey's guns struck it perfectly, shattering the metal with a combination of speed, power, and precision. Evan smiled. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. "They don't know what's coming. The galaxy might see humans as weak or primitive. They might scoff at old technology, at scrappy improvisation, at courage and determination over raw firepower. But Evan knew better. The Odyssey was proof. Humans could take what the galaxy threw away and make it stronger than anything the aliens could imagine. And as he piloted the ship back toward the salvage yard, he knew the next challenge would not be a pirate ship, or a trade convoy, or even a minor skirmish. The galaxy's major powers were beginning to notice. They would come for him. They would come for the Odyssey. But Evan Calder was ready. Humans survived because they adapted. Humans thrived because they created. Humans conquered the impossible because they refused to surrender. And the Odyssey, once a forgotten relic, would be the galaxy's first warning. Never underestimate humanity. The calm of the Outer Rim was over. Where once the Odyssey had been invisible, whispers had grown into warnings. Alien patrols scanned sectors, looking for the human ship that had destroyed pirate raiders and challenged trade convoys. Reports called it a rogue weapon, a ghost vessel, a human-engineered anomaly that defied logic. Evan Calder knew the attention was coming. Humans were never the strongest, but they were clever, unpredictable, and relentless. And he would use every advantage the galaxy had overlooked. He stood on the observation deck staring out at the stars. Each blink of a distant sun reminded him how small humans were in this vast galaxy. But humans had survived worse than distance, worse than size, and worse than alien technology. Humans survived because they adapted, and the Odyssey was his adaptation. "Evan," the AI said, its voice steady now. "Multiple incoming signatures detected. Unknown warships entering sector at high velocity. All appear armed and hostile." Evan's grin widened. "Let's give them a warm welcome." The alien armada was unlike anything he had faced. 10 warships, sleek and heavily armed, advanced in perfect formation. Their weapons glinted with energy beams designed to pierce even the toughest shields. To any other pilot, the sight would have been terrifying. Evan didn't flinch. He had a plan, one the aliens could not predict. "Engage evasive patterns," he ordered, not waiting for the AI to suggest them. He pushed the engines to maximum output, feeling the vibrations of the Odyssey surge through him. The old ship was alive, stronger than it had been in decades, and ready to fight. The first shots came, a barrage of deadly energy meant to disable him instantly. Evan tilted the ship, weaving through the beams with erratic but precise maneuvers. Alien targeting systems were designed for predictability, for structured flight patterns. Humans, however, were anything but predictable. Evan's improvisation made the automated weapons miss, one by one. He countered, firing the modified projectile cannons. Unlike the alien ship's smooth and predictable energy bursts, the Odyssey's weapons were wild, jerky, and chaotic. They struck where they shouldn't have, hitting engines, shields, and control nodes in ways the aliens never expected. One ship was crippled in moments, another forced into evasive maneuvers, sparks and smoke trailing from its hull. The aliens adapted quickly, but Evan had already anticipated this. He directed the ship into a debris field of abandoned satellites and wrecked vessels. While they relied on automated targeting systems to track him, Evan used the debris to confuse them, hiding and striking in ways no program could predict. The Odyssey became a ghost, slipping between obstacles, striking, disappearing, then reappearing where the enemy least expected. Hours passed in a blur of energy blasts, evasive maneuvers, and strategic strikes. The human ship moved like a single organism, its AI core now fully in tune with Evan's instincts. Where a human hand guided it, the ship reacted instantly. Where logic suggested retreat, intuition guided the attack. Finally, the alien armada began to falter. Their formation was broken. Systems overheated from unexpected impacts. Automated protocols failed when the human unpredictability made calculations impossible. One by one, the warships withdrew, not because they had been destroyed completely, but because they could not predict the next strike. Evan exhaled, his hand still gripping the controls. He had survived, and more than that, he had outsmarted an entire alien fleet. Humans were underestimated for a reason. They adapted, improvised, and refused to surrender. But there was no time to celebrate. The victory had been noticed. Galactic news channels broadcast images of the battle across dozens of star systems. Aliens debated the implications. A human vessel, obsolete by their standards, had bested superior technology, survived multiple attacks, and evaded capture. Panic rippled through their ranks. Evan returned to the salvage yard, where his fellow humans and a few curious aliens waited. He didn't speak much, he rarely did, but the look in his eyes, the pride in the way he handled the Odyssey, spoke louder than words. The human crew, small but determined, gathered around. "They'll come again," one said, a young engineer named Tessa. "And next time, they'll bring more ships." Evan nodded. "Good. That's when we show them the full power of human thinking. Numbers, rules, and algorithms are useless against creativity." They spent the next days reinforcing the Odyssey, making further modifications. Shields were layered with redundant systems. Weapons were calibrated for maximum chaos. Engines were fine-tuned for bursts of unpredictable speed. Every upgrade relied on improvisation, on bending rules, on thinking like a human rather than a machine. Evan knew the galaxy's major powers would soon send fleets to intercept him. But he also knew humans had a secret weapon no alien army could replicate: ingenuity. One human mind could solve problems in ways rigid alien systems could not. One human hand could turn a rusty, abandoned ship into a vessel capable of facing 10 warships and surviving. It wasn't just about survival anymore. The Odyssey had become a symbol, a warning to the galaxy. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most technologically advanced, but they were resilient, adaptable, and relentless. A single human could turn weakness into strength and turn an impossible situation into victory. When the next threat arrived, it was unlike anything Evan had faced. A massive cruiser, nearly half the size of the armada he had fought before, appeared in the Outer Rim sector. Its weapons glowed with energy designed to tear through even the Odyssey's reinforced hull. Automated drones swarmed around it, scanning for weaknesses. Evan didn't panic. He had learned the value of improvisation under fire. He diverted power to the engines, then to shields, then to weapons in rapid succession, keeping the cruiser's sensors off balance. Every move was unpredictable. Every strike hit where it shouldn't. The human touch had turned the Odyssey into a weapon that could not be calculated or contained. Hours of battle turned into a strategic dance. The cruiser's drones attempted to flank him, but Evan used the surrounding asteroid field to hide and strike. Energy beams slammed into rocks, detonating debris that collided with enemy ships. Chaos became his ally. Human creativity turned the battlefield into an advantage. Finally, the massive cruiser, battered and unable to anticipate the Odyssey's next move, retreated. Evan watched it disappear into the distance. The galaxy had taken notice. Humans were no longer a footnote. They were a threat. Evan climbed to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Each blink of distant suns reminded him how small humans were. And yet, humans could take anything the galaxy threw at them and turn it into victory. They could take scraps and make weapons, outthink entire fleets, and survive where others would fall. The Odyssey hummed beneath him, alive and powerful, a relic of the past reborn through human determination. Evan's voice was quiet but firm. They'll never see it coming next time. The galaxy would come for him again. It would bring more ships, more weapons, more rules and logic. But humans had something the aliens did not. Unpredictable, relentless ingenuity. And Evan Calder, pilot of a forgotten starship turned galactic weapon, would make sure that humans survived and thrived against impossible odds. Far beyond the Outer Rim, the alien empires convened. Reports of the human vessel had reached the council chambers of multiple star systems. Analysts debated the implications. Some called it an anomaly. Some called it a threat. One general finally said aloud what everyone feared. The humans, they are not like us. They do not follow rules. They do not surrender. And they can turn nothing into something stronger than anything we have.
Evan didn't hear these words. He was already planning.
The Odyssey would be tested again, yes, but he had learned the galaxy's limits, and more importantly, he had learned how to exploit them. Humans survived not because of strength, not because of numbers, but because of creativity. And now, the galaxy would see the full measure of human ingenuity. The galaxy had taken notice, and now it would act. Alien fleets converged on the outer rim, alerted by reports of a rogue human vessel that defied logic and destroyed ships deemed far superior. The Odyssey's hum filled the empty corridors as Evan Calder prepared. Every panel, every conduit, every weapon had been upgraded, tested, and pushed beyond its original limits. "Evan," said Tessa, the young engineer who had joined him months ago, "they're coming in force. Dozens of ships, warships, drones, everything they could muster. If we fight, we might not survive." Evan studied the tactical readouts. If we don't fight, humanity will be forgotten here, in this corner of the galaxy. And humans don't give up. The first wave of enemy ships appeared, a wall of dark hulls, bristling with weapons. Automated targeting systems glowed red across the Odyssey's sensors. Evan gripped the controls, feeling the familiar vibrations of the ship respond to his instincts. The AI's voice was calm, predictive. Analysis, probability of victory against current force, low. Evan laughed. "That's fine. Probability doesn't matter when humans are involved." He launched the ship into evasive maneuvers. Alien beams tore past the Odyssey, slicing into the vacuum with deadly precision. Most pilots would have panicked. Most crews would have been destroyed. But Evan relied on unpredictability. He darted between debris fields, twisted the ship in impossible angles, and fired the modified cannons with chaotic timing. The first enemy ship exploded in a brilliant flare as a shot found its engines. Another tried to flank him, but the Odyssey responded instantly, swinging around it and striking its weapons array. The alien pilots could not anticipate his movements. Their automated systems failed, and chaos became Evan's ally. Hours turned into a blur. The Odyssey was everywhere and nowhere at once, a ghostly wraith of human ingenuity. Evan had integrated improvised systems that allowed the ship to predict not just enemy fire, but enemy expectations. He used decoys, misdirection, and traps. Alien warships fell, often without understanding why. Tessa worked beside him in the control deck, rerouting power as needed. "Evan, shields are weakening on the port side." "Not for long," he said, activating an emergency reinforcement protocol he had built from scavenged parts. Energy flowed through redundant channels, and the shield stabilized. Humans build for survival. You adapt under pressure. The ship adapts with us. The alien commander, a tall, gray-skinned strategist named Corthel, watched from his flagship. "Impossible," he muttered. "A single human ship, outmaneuvering and destroying our entire fleet? There is no logic." But logic had never stopped humans. Logic could not predict improvisation. Humans survived because they invented solutions, adapted under fire, and turned weakness into strength. Evan was a perfect example of that principle. The battle raged for hours. The Outer Rim sector became a wreckage field of shattered hulls and drifting debris. But the Odyssey moved with uncanny precision. Evan's human instinct guided it. The AI responded instinctively, and together they became a force that no alien calculation could defeat. Finally, Corthel ordered a retreat. His fleet, battered, broken, and humiliated, withdrew into the distance. The human vessel, small and seemingly insignificant, had survived against overwhelming odds. Evan exhaled, letting his hands relax on the controls. He looked out at the stars, streaked with the light of explosions, debris, and distant suns. The Odyssey had survived. Humans had triumphed. Tessa looked at him with awe. You did it. We did it. Evan shook his head. They didn't just lose. They learned something. Humans are not predictable. We survive and we fight back, even when everyone says it's impossible. That's what makes us dangerous. News of the battle spread like wildfire. Across dozens of star systems, the image of the Odyssey, an old, neglected human ship that had defeated fleets of advanced alien warships, became a symbol. Not just of human resilience, but of human creativity and adaptability. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that underestimation was a weakness no one should exploit again. The galaxy debated the event. Analysts tried to find flaws in the ship's design, loopholes in Evan's tactics, but there were none. Humans had done something no algorithm could predict. They had taken scraps, rebuilt, improved, and turned a relic into a galactic weapon. For Evan, the victory was more than just survival. It was a statement. Humans would not be ignored. They would not be underestimated. And even with old technology, improvisation, and sheer determination, they could achieve what others deemed impossible. As the salvage yard settled back into quiet, Evan stood on the observation deck, watching the stars stretch endlessly before him. Tessa joined him. "What now?" she asked. Evan smiled faintly. "Now we continue. The galaxy has seen what we can do. They'll try again. Bigger fleets, better weapons. But humans always adapt. Humans always survive. And the Odyssey, we're ready for them."